All right, let's just dive right in. The story of us, of Homo sapiens, it's a story we all thought we had figured out. But what if I told you the very first chapter, the part about where and when we even began, was off by, just a few 100,000 years? Because we're about to look at a discovery that is doing just that, causing a massive shakeup in the story of human evolution. I mean, it's the question, right? When did our specific story, the one that leads directly to you, me, and everyone else on Earth, actually kick off? It's a question that pulls us right into the deepest, most fascinating mystery there is, our own origins. And for a very long time, the answer you'd get was pretty simple. You'd open any textbook and it would say our species, Homo sapiens, first showed up in Africa around 300,000 years ago. That was it. That was the established narrative, the very bedrock of our evolutionary story. So the classic story went kind of like this. About 600,000 years ago, there was a split in our family tree. One branch led to the Neanderthals, who popped up around 400,000 years ago. The other branch? Well, that led to us, Homo sapiens, showing up 100,000 years later. See? It was all very neat, very linear. But nature is rarely that simple. And this is where things get messy. Paleoanthropologists have been wrestling with this problem they literally call the muddle in the middle. It's this super confusing chunk of time just packed with all these fossils from Africa, Asia, and Europe that, they just didn't fit. They didn't slot nicely into our clean little boxes. And then this clue surfaces, a skull dug up in China's Hubei province called Yunxian 2. And it was incredibly old, we're talking about 1 million years, but it was also a mess. Badly crushed, totally distorted. It was this tantalizing and really frustrating puzzle. Which brings us to a huge problem, right? How on earth do you identify a fossil that's been basically flattened by time? I mean, it's not like you can just use some super glue. You need something way, way more sophisticated. And that's exactly what they did. To solve this ancient puzzle, scientists took it into the digital world. They used all this cutting-edge tech to start rebuilding the skull piece by virtual piece to see what it really looked like. And this process, let me tell you, is unbelievably detailed. It's a super rigorous workflow that starts with these incredibly high-resolution scans. Then they have to digitally isolate every tiny fragment. And here's the amazing part. They use software to digitally reverse the damage, to essentially uncrush the skull. It's like CSI for fossils, undoing 1 million years of geological pressure. So, to break it down, you can think of it in 4 basic steps. First, you digitize it, make a 3D scan. Then you delineate, separate all the broken pieces. Step 3 is the real magic, retrodeform, where you virtually undo all that crushing. And finally, you reconstruct, fill in the missing bits, and see the whole picture. So, after all that incredible high-tech work, the team finally had it. A complete digital model of the skull as it looked 1 million years ago. And its identity, well, it was about to send absolute shockwaves through the entire field. It wasn't Homo erectus, which is what a lot of people were betting on. Nope. Its features lined up with another group, Homo longi, also known as Dragon Man. But here's the real bombshell. Further analysis confirmed that Homo longi, that's a Denisovan. For the very first time, we have a face for this mysterious group of ancient humans we'd only known from a few tiny bones and some DNA from a cave in Siberia. And just let this sink in for a second. The age of this skull, it's from 1 million years ago. That one single fact changes absolutely everything we thought we knew. Okay, so you can see what this does to our nice, neat timeline, right? If the Denisovans were already a distinct group 1 million years ago, that means the split, the one that created our branch and the Neanderthal branch, had to happen before that. So that old number, 600,000 years ago, you can just toss that right out the window. The new reality is that the Great Split happened well over 1 million years ago. So what does this actually mean for us, for our story? It means the starting point for our own direct ancestors gets shoved back in time by a massive 400,000 years at the very least. Our lineage is suddenly almost twice as old as we thought it was. Our branch didn't begin 300,000 years ago. It began over 1 million years ago. So that muddle in the middle just got a whole lot more crowded. According to Professor Chris Stringer, you have to imagine a world with at least 5 major human groups running around at the same time. You've got the ancient pioneers, Homo erectus, the European ancestors, Homo heidelbergensis, our famous cousins, the Neanderthals, this newly revealed Denisovan group, and of course the earliest members of our very own lineage. It wasn't a straight line. It was this complex, messy, beautiful web of humanity. But this discovery doesn't just rewrite the when. It forces us to ask a really profound question about the where. For decades, the story of human origins has been centered on Africa. But if our lineage is really 1,000,000+ years old, does that story still hold up? I mean, just look at the evidence. The oldest fossils we have for this whole Denisovan group are in China and Spain, and that raises this absolutely staggering possibility. What if the common ancestor of all three of us, Sapiens, Neanderthals, and Denisovans, didn't live in Africa at all, but somewhere in Eurasia? And that brings us to this incredibly humble admission from Professor Chris Stringer, who is a giant in this field. He says that after all this new evidence, the only truly honest answer right now is, we just don't know. The whole map is basically wide open again, which is kind of exciting, right? So the real takeaway here is that our origin story isn't some dusty tale carved in stone. It's a live investigation, a detective story that's being updated all the time. This one crushed skull from China has completely reframed how we see ourselves. And it leaves us with one thrilling question. What will the next clue reveal?